welcome back to lesson 1 in week 3. In today's lesson, we are going to be looking at identifying the properties of a solid. Timing yourself in 20 seconds, can you list as many things that are solid? Remember to pause the video and play when you're ready. Here is my list of things. Scissors, kettle, fridge, bed, glass, plant pot, chair, tin, book, hat, clock, saw, hammer and helicopter. Talk to your partner. What does the word prediction mean? Before I play this video, I want you to predict, is a biscuit a solid or a liquid?
When you're thinking about solids, you usually start early on. Solids are very hard and so on. When they get a little bit older, perhaps year 5 and 6, you start to introduce some solids that don't seem to obey the rules. That can be a bit tricky, but we've come up with a really good demonstration to help you. So, if we're thinking about solids and the properties of solids, they've already learnt the basics, but there are actually solids that don't obey the rules. I'm thinking here about year 5 and 6.
Okay.
If you were to say to your class, tell me the properties of a solid, I bet they'd come up with something like that, wouldn't they?
Yeah. Something that's hard, keeps its shape.
Absolutely, and those are the phrases we've taught them to use, that's fine. But there are lots of solids that have tiny granules that don't behave like this. In fact, they can pour and they will flow and they take the shape of the container. And those are the phrases we've already taught them for liquids.
Yeah.
So now we're going to have to try and expand on it.
Okay.
Things like sand. Sand, salt, sugar, you can pour them. They're tiny particles, they move over each other, but they are definitely solids.
Yeah.
So the best thing really is to start with something that is a big solid, because sand, usually little tiny particles like that. You could start with something perhaps like sugar lumps.
Yeah.
Now, we can get obviously, granulated sugar or something, so you could say sugar lumps, granulated sugar. But I like the idea of them actually crushing something themselves and seeing that what they're doing is breaking it up into tiny particles. Sugar lumps are quite tricky to break up. So I thought about biscuits. Biscuits are really easy to crush with a rolling pin or something like that. And then when they're fine enough, you can put them into different shaped containers. So I've brought along some biscuits and a rolling pin and a carrier bag, little plastic bag. So it's a bit like cookery, really.
Yeah.
Of course, this is going to be great fun, isn't it, in class? You don't have to use cooking rolling pin. Lots of schools obviously have these. This is a craft rolling pin.
Okay.
You will need to get the particles fairly small because you want them to pour and you want them to see that they're behaving like sand or sugar or salt. And give them a really good crush.
Yeah. And this is quite easy to do.
Yeah. And what we've done is I've collected all sorts of different types of containers. I've already put some biscuit crumbs in that one. How are we doing?
Nearly
Oh,
there.
we're nearly there. Yeah, that'll be brilliant. So you can see that I've got biscuit crumbs in a tall container. I think it's a good idea to collect all sorts of different containers. Some of these are glass, some of these are plastic. Good shapes, so that you can show them that these, even though it's a solid, it takes the shape of the container. So this one is taking the shape of a tall, thin container. But we've got quite a short, fat, dumpy one there. If I pour mine in and then you can pour yours in, we can fill that up. And you can see here it comes pouring just like a liquid. There we go.
Okay.
And we can add yours. We can see the biscuits taking the shape of the short, fat container. Even though it is a solid. And I think probably this is a really good way of getting them to understand, because they're seeing you, or they're doing it themselves, pouring a solid. We started off with a biscuit. We've still got biscuit, it's the same thing, and it is still a solid, but it pours. It doesn't always have to obey the rules that we've thought of for liquid.
Here you can see a picture of the particles in a solid. They are very close together. The particles in a solid are packed so closely together and therefore hold onto each other very tightly that they can barely move at all. The particles in a solid are fixed in a pattern so the shape and volume cannot be changed unless chopped, cut, chiselled or carved. Therefore solids don't flow and that's why they keep their shape. The properties of a solid. Solids are easily controlled. Solids can be cut. Solids have definite volumes and definite shapes. Solids cannot flow. Solids cannot easily be compressed.
Which of these materials can be described as a solid? Rock, a gold bar, a china teacup, a pizza. They are in fact all solids. Materials are classed as a solid when they have a fixed shape. That is, a shape that under normal circumstances doesn't change. Solids only change shape when an external force is applied to them. For example, by heating, hammering, cutting, or squashing. Solids share other qualities. They do not move once placed. And they cannot change volume, that is, the amount of space they take up. For instance, this parachute changes shape when it's not in the air, but the material will always fill the same amount of space. Unlike a gas or a liquid, a solid has tightly packed molecules, so it cannot be compressed into a smaller space or volume. If you roll pizza dough, it will get thinner, but it will also get wider. You can't change its volume. The only way to reduce the pizza's volume is to eat it.
Task 1. Try the biscuit experiment at home and see if you can write in your own words why a biscuit is a solid. Task 2. Draw the particles of a solid. List some things in your home which are solid and write down in your own words the properties of a solid. Remember to write in your own words to help you remember this information. Thanks for watching once again. Remember to upload your work onto Tapestry or send it to the Year 4 teacher's email address.